and welcome back to the Property Hustle. In today's interview, we'll be speaking to my friend and fellow property entrepreneur, Stephanie Taylor. Stephanie invests in HMOs, houses in multiple occupations. This is a strategy that a lot of investors use to really maximize returns off of a single property. However, unlike most investors, Stephanie does this with little or none of her own money. Stay tuned to find out how you can do the same. Before I go any further with the interview, be sure to click the subscribe button below and click the bell icon as well so you can get notifications every time I post. So we've spoken a lot about the rent to rent, and you've mentioned how starting off on that strategy has gotten you to the point that you're actually buying property. I assume you kind of were sort of saving or had a pot, or were you able to borrow against your business? Like, how did that work going from sort of the rent to rent to buying?
So we had some cash flow, and also we had some of our own money. I used to have a flat in Edinburgh which I sold, and my sister was able to take some money out of a property that she had, and so between that, and we also borrowed off a family friend who was happy to invest with us as we were talking.
Because he'd seen you, presumably, posting and being successful. This family member was then wanting and you know, chomping at the bit to invest.
Exactly. Well, as you said earlier, that your family can sometimes be sceptical, so you don't really want to necessarily work with them if they're not fully 100%. And I think he was in that camp earlier on. Not that we'd asked him for anything, but as he saw that we were doing very well, and it was well worth the risk. He felt so that was the deposit then, and for refurbishing it, we're using the cash flow from our other business, and then we got
so your first one was no debt. It was all you bought cash.
So we're not talking about the first one.
Sorry.
I'm talking about the latest one because that's all I can think.
I'd love to be able to say that. Oh, we're not talking about the first one. We're talking about I've got multiple properties.
So this is the latest one, which I'll tell you about because
I think did you post this on Facebook recently? Because this was the one that took quite a long time to get over the line. Okay, please go ahead.
It was so it's got 12 units, and when you said to me what's one of the most challenging things, before we managed to secure this one, we were trying to buy a 5-bed, a 6-bed, and then it was 3 flats, I think it was, and all of them fell through for different reasons. One of them, the lender valuation was too low. One of them, the seller pulled out. One of them, the seller wouldn't negotiate and the price went too high. Excuse me. And so it was disappointment after disappointment, and you're paying out thousands of pounds for
solicitors and
all sorts of things, and it's just the anticipation, the excitement,
and then it falls through, and you're like,
again. And after the third time, you're like,
you really have to have a hard outer shell in property.
That's a great point. You just got to feel that you're gonna get to the finish line no matter what, but the journey is not going to be a straight line. The journey is not going to be a straight line, so you just got to keep walking. So we eventually found this property, and it was actually Nikki who, let me give her some credit, Nikki and my sister and business partner, who found it. But it's 12 units, 10 bed sits, which is where you've got
it's like one room that contains everything, like the bed, the kitchenette.
Everything except the bathroom.
Okay.
So there's shared bathrooms. There's 3 shared bathrooms and 10 bed sits. And then there's a 2-bedroom flat and there's a shop. So we found the property, and we'd gone back to the lender. We had a broker as well, and we'd gone back to the lender and say, okay, we found another one. But the broker said, that lender won't do commercial.
Okay.
It won't do commercial. So even though it was a shop, i.e. 11/12 of the property is residential and only 1/12 is commercial. But they don't touch it. If it's got any commercial, they're not interested.
Okay.
So then we had to go through that process again, which took months, which was assessing, looking at all the different offers that we had, choosing one, going through all that due diligence process again, providing all the paperwork they asked for, then waiting, and then having to provide lots of other paperwork that were not
This is
asked
all for the
for.
same property?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was just a long process.
How did you find that property? Was it through an agent?
It was just it was just online up for sale.
Okay. And you were able to, after your offer was accepted, you were able to kind of go through this process of having to basically to try and find a lender that would lend on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I always imagined that if you don't find the money in a certain amount of time, the agent would drop you, or the vendor would.
Yeah.
Or maybe the vendor was like wanting to sell to you guys.
No, well, the vendor was very impatient. We thought we had the lending because we already had lending agreed for a very similar amount for the previous property. But just when we went back, we found that because it's commercial, we've got to find a new lender. We already had our broker, so our broker then started searching for a new lender. But then he's got to present us with the different offers,
deals,
and then we've got to choose and start the process. And lenders don't move fast. And
oh yeah, they're slow. Yeah.
So yeah, it felt like I don't know, the firewalk, really.
Yeah. So now you've got it, you've acquired it.
Yeah.
What's the timeline for sort of getting it, up and running? What's the refurb? What's it going to cost you?
Okay. Well, let me just give you the headlines. So it was £375,000 to buy it.
Yeah. Can I just clarify, for those who live in London, so she's bought 12 units for the price of what a one-bed flat would be on average here in London. Just saying. Anyway, maybe we'll need to move to Wales.
Yeah, move to Wales, or at least buy in Wales.
Exactly.
It's good,
yeah.
Because so it's £375,000, and the rental income, I think, it was very low because the property wasn't in an amazing condition.
Yeah.
However, it's still 40k a year coming in.
Yeah.
And we bought it. Yeah. We bought it tenanted. There were 3, I think it was, empty when we purchased because some moved out during the conveyancing period, which went on for 6 months.
Yeah.
So.
But presumably, you probably had tenants ready because you've got such a pipeline or a portfolio of properties.
Well, let me talk to you about that, because when we took it over, obviously we've taken it over with tenants in, so we are in effect renting out this property, which is not in amazing condition. So we did ask ourselves the question, well, we could just rent out the rooms as they are. But when we were just standing in the room looking around ourselves, we said, in all honesty, I couldn't invite somebody in and say, would you like to move in?
Yeah.
So we decided to obviously do them up before we put them out. These units are £32,000 each. So it's, if you take the 375 divided by 12, it's £32,000 per unit, and each unit is going to be £450 rent or more.
So could you buy one of the units as an investment?
No.
Okay.
No. But I'm just conveying the power of the multi-unit block, because normally you wouldn't be able to buy, even in Wales, even in the valleys, you wouldn't be able to buy something which you can rent out for £450 for £32,000.
Yeah.
So it's because you're buying them all together, they're all on one title. So that's the power of the multi-unit block. There's several reasons why it's a great way to get into property investment. One of them is that conversion costs are really high now because of soundproofing and lots of other new standards or newer standards which have been brought in. But if you buy an already converted multi-unit block, you can just refurbish each unit. You don't need to do them up to a certain standard, although ours already, it's an old building, it's done up. The structure of the building is sturdy.
Yeah.
So your refurb costs are lower, your maintenance costs are lower than buying 12 separate units. Your management costs are lower than buying 12 separate units because everything's in one place.
Yes.
Your exits are more plentiful because you could service department it out, for example, or you can. We're sticking to what we know, which is the long term lets, and there's potential in some cases to split the title and be able to sell off the units, as you were saying, and that gives you another uplift. So that is my top tip. I think multi-unit blocks.
Yeah.
And even if you're just buying a property to live in, why not buy, for example, a house that's been converted into 3 flats?
Exactly. If you have the money to do so. I actually have a friend of mine, a really good friend from school, who's come into some money recently through inheritance. And he approached me and said, you know, I'm looking to buy a flat. And by the end of it's funny because he was like, I just want to know how to like go through the process of buying. But by the time we finished speaking, he was like, right, so I want to invest and I want to buy. Because I said to him, I was like, with the kind of money you have, if you're going to put down that much money anyway, you might as well buy, like you said, a house that's got multiple flats. And that way you've got the property you live in and then the investment that you know, or buy a house and convert it into like there's so much that you can do when you do have that kind of capital available. So I just completely changed his mindset in that like hour session. So yeah, I'm really pleased that he's going to, you know, really maximise his return.
Yeah. And you asked me how much is it going to cost to do. I did take a few notes. So we bought it 375. We're spending 75,000 on it. But at the moment we are only doing the empty units. We've got a couple more empty units now, so we're doing those up and bringing the rent up. So all in will be 450k. And we have 175 left in, or we will do at the end of the refurb. So we've got the 100 that I originally paid, that's locked in. And we've got 75k that we will have in the refurb by the end of it. So it's a 27% return on investment because the gross rent will be £66,000 a year once it's all complete. Yeah. And the cherry on the cake, and I hesitate to tell you this because you might feel quite ill, but you know, usually on a lender valuation, maybe you don't know because you're in London, and in Newport what's been happening is that a lot of the lenders are very conservative in their valuations. So
I mean, I know a little bit about that because I am a registered valuer, so when I was in the valuation team, we would always conservatively value, which sometimes almost improves the revaluation when you on the other end. But anyway, continue.
So that's what's been happening in Newport because sellers are quite ambitious because the toll, the 7 bridge tolls come off, and so it's been thought that will increase property prices in Newport because Newport's obviously, you know, from England across to Wales, from Bristol across to Newport. Bristol's a very hot market, and it was thought that you know the property prices will increase, and I think they will. Yeah, but
sellers are a bit too quick off the mark at the moment. Maybe they're pricing too high, and
sellers and lenders obviously the other way. So we were slightly worried because remember we've lost 3 deals now. We're on this fourth time lucky. The process is going on for like months and months and months and months, and then it's time for the lender to go in and do the valuation. Yeah. And that process was supposed to have taken, I think, a week, but it took about 2 weeks before we got the report. Yeah. And so we're sort of on tenterhooks. And you'll never guess how much it came in at.
What, the reval?
The lender valuation for the purchase.
375.
£500,000. I love that face. Capture that.
What?
Yes, that was my face as well. Yeah, exactly.
So you have secured and put into contract. So you've literally said this seller said, I'm going to sell this to you at 375.
Yes.
The lenders valued it at 500.
Yes.
So they said, yeah, we're happy to give you the money for this because we know
Yes.
it's worth more
Yes.
than what it
Yes.
is.
Yes.
I'm interested to know what the revaluation is going to be.
Yeah, I would love to know.
Yeah.
But we think, Nikki, well, we thought, well, don't say in case the lenders watching, we thought it was low. No, we thought it was a very positive valuation, but we actually did think when we read it, he seemed to be quite clued up on the market, which isn't always the case. He seemed to think the market rents would be around 400, and that's about right. And he recognised that the previous owner, the rents were very low.
Yeah.
So I think when we've got it fully rented out at the new rents and it's bringing in 66k a year, that the valuation
at least be in the 600, over the 600s for sure.
I would hope so.
For sure.
I would hope so.
Market dependent.
Yeah, but we don't know what the market's doing. But we are intending to hold this property for a long time.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that's an example of the sort of thing that we fell into accidentally. It's slightly bigger property, and I think that's the sort of thing we want to do again.
Okay,
yeah.
So my next question was going to be, well, what's next in terms of, you know, property deals, maybe personal ventures, like what's Stephanie up to?
Yeah, well, we still want to build up our own owned portfolio. Let me just touch on a couple of other things then, if I could, that we've already purchased. And again, I know London viewers will fall off their seats now, but we bought the first property that we bought. We did actually buy in cash, thinking that we could refinance quickly. But yes, exactly. But we were young and naive.
Yeah.
It was £150,000, and it's an office.
Okay.
And we've got planning to.
You secure planning to convert
to 4 flats.
Okay.
So that is a really nice deal as well.
That's in the pipeline.
We may be able to split the title. We own that one now. We've got a commercial tenant in there. We bought it tenanted.
Okay.
So that's washing its face and a bit of cash flow.
Yeah.
But obviously that suited us because we didn't have planning. We've got planning now. The company have extended their lease, so we're going to negotiate because we do need to do the work.
Is there a break option in the extended lease?
We don't need it. We've given them. I can't remember. Nikki knows the details of when it goes up to, but we know we need to develop it within 5 years.
Yes.
So we'll need to have that conversation.
For sure.
They know that we're developing it at some point, but they're there. So that's one thing. And we bought that. This is why I said London viewers may fall off their chairs, but we bought that for £148,000, and it's going to be 4 flats.
Do you know roughly what the flats will value at once?
Yeah, I think they'll be going to be slightly above average just because of the way we do them, and if we decide to sell them. But I think our plan is hold them. They're right opposite the train station. We think they'll reval at conservatively £80,000 each. So
that's about 360,000.
Yeah.
If gross or whatever, like not taken into account
the refurb.
Yeah.
Because that'll obviously be significant because it's a sort of it's an office. It's a big office.
Yeah.
So there's that place, and then we've also got commercial is another opportunity, especially in our area because there's no permitted development. So whereas in London and lots of other places,
a lot of people are utilising PD,
and so there's a lot of competition for purchase. Whereas where we are, there's no permitted development on commercial, and so therefore there's less competition. There are fewer people interested in commercial. Fewer people can get the lending for commercial, and we've now got commercial experience. So that is a massive opportunity. Commercial is a massive opportunity. Multi-unit blocks is a massive opportunity, and even beginners can go into multi-unit blocks because you need to have, say, 2 or 3, and then you can go up from there as you move on. The other thing I want to touch on, Faith, is one of the things that before I started, I was like, what? What? When people talk about lease options.
Yeah.
That's surely to God that's not a thing.
Yeah.
And but now we've got three properties on lease option.
Could you just explain what a lease option is? Because obviously we both know, but some viewers might not know.
Yeah, so basically a lease option is where you buy a property without a mortgage and sometimes without a deposit. So I'll explain how it works in these cases, because a lease option can work basically in any way that you agree with the owner.
Yeah.
But in the example that we are buying a property for £160,000, which is a fair market value. We are paying 10% to the owners at the start, so £16,000, and then we are paying a lease amount every month for the next 5 years, or up to the next 5 years. But at the end of 5 years, let's just say we were paying £1,000 a month for 5 years. That's £60,000. That £60,000 is deducted from the purchase price. So essentially, it's a rent-free period. It's like a long-term, what they used to call hire purchase. You're probably too young.
No,
you're probably too young to remember the days of HP. But so you get to buy a house without having to get a mortgage. Now, from what I've told you before, you know, and from your own experience, you know that lending has changed massively, and it takes a long time to go through the process, months. To go through all that process. So actually to be able to buy straight from the owner on a lease option is really powerful, and we'll get to do up the property.
And can you agree that lease to last as long as you need to pay off the property? So essentially you're paying down.
Well, you could do, but ours is, in fact this one is an exchange with delayed completion, so we have to buy it. With a lease option, we could pull out if we wanted to and lose the £60,000. But in this case, it's an exchange with delayed completion, so we have to buy it. So we have up to 5 years, and then we have to buy it. And
but what we should clarify here is that you're buying at the price that you locked in today.
Yes, that's
today's
right.
value. So in 5 years' time, let's say the property value has risen up to 300k, you're still buying it at 160.
That's right.
So that's I'd say the beauty of lease options.
And you do kind of wonder, well, why would somebody do that? And you know, when I was saying to you earlier, the whole be bolder thing. Well, when we first started doing this in 2016, I was posting up pictures on Twitter and things, and we had a few properties, and in March of 2017 I got in a message on Twitter, which I don't really use now, but anyway, I got a message on Twitter saying, would we like to talk at an event, a local property event, and we talked at that event, and or I talked at that event, and I think that was the first sort of talk that I'd done, and I was petrified, and I didn't feel like an expert, but so I went and I did it. And a couple who were at the event that night, then after that they received our letters, because we're sending out the letters to all the HMO owners over a period of a few years now. And that when they decided to retire, they knew about lease options. They already knew about lease options, but they just decided they wanted to sell it to us on the lease option. And
because they'd seen you, and because there was that trust without you knowing it. From the years of the letters and seeing you speak. There's that kind of trust that's been built.
Exactly. So we were talking earlier about a person who's been doing our Kickstarter program, who was posting about what she was doing on Facebook, and also she was attending networking meetings, and through that she met a joint venture partner.
Wow.
So it's very
the power
important.
of social media and telling everyone what you do.
Exactly, telling everyone what you do. Exactly. I think that's the...
Cool. So you've got these commercial conversions essentially in your pipeline, and you've got your podcast coming up, which you've spoken about. Is there anything else? In fact, if people want to contact you and reach
Mm-hmm.
you? What's the best method for them to reach you?
Okay, so if you're interested in getting started with Rent to Rent, then I think Rent to Rent Success YouTube channel, and also go to rent2rentsuccess.com, because we've got the free info on there. There's a free guide and there's a free online training, and that's all the basics to get started. From there, you'll be able to book a call with me and I can walk you through if you've got any questions or anything like that. For just property investing in general, check us out at hmoheaven.co.uk. And if you want to message me and just ask a question or say, I watched you on, I watched you on the Property Hustle, then send me an email, send me a Facebook message. I'm at Stephanie Taylor UK, because my personal Facebook is full.
Yeah, too many friends.
Too many friends.
Yeah.
But Stephanie Taylor UK is my Facebook page. Send me a message. I'd love to hear from any property hustlers.
Yeah, and she's also got your groups as well on Facebook.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah.
I'm in those groups. That's why I remembered.
Yeah, Rent to Rent Success Secrets on Facebook, and also we've got HMO Heroes on Facebook as well.
All of these will be in the description box below, so be sure to subscribe and follow as well. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Honestly, I feel like you've given me a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for asking me. It's been lovely to be here.
And if I'm ever in Wales,
you need to come to Wales.
I need to come to Wales. I need to see these properties that you can buy for like 100k.
You do.
Definitely. Well, unfortunately, that is it for this interview. I hope you found it useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for new content every week. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.